What if I told you that confidence isn't something you have to feel before taking action? In reality, confidence comes from being willing to move forward even when you're scared. I've built several businesses, led large teams, and spoken on big stages while feeling completely terrified inside. Yet, I still showed up. So, if you've ever wondered how to stay calm under pressure, stop overthinking every situation, or develop genuine confidence, this is exactly what I want to talk about. Today, I want to show you what actually creates confidence. The truth is, most people approach it the wrong way. They think confidence is where you begin, when in reality, it's the result of what you do. One of the questions I hear all the time is, Layla, how do I become more confident? And I completely understand why people ask that, because everywhere you look, people say things like, just believe in yourself, as if confidence magically appears once you convince yourself it's there. Many people think they simply need to repeat positive affirmations every morning. Maybe write them on the bathroom mirror and read them every day. Honestly, that's exactly what I did in my early 20s. I literally covered my mirror with statements like, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am capable, I am confident. But here's the reality. Nothing changed. Reading those words every morning didn't suddenly make me feel confident for the rest of the day. It didn't transform the way I viewed myself or how I handled difficult situations. The reason is simple. Confidence is built through action. That's why I constantly remind people not to follow their mood, follow the plan. Every single time you keep a promise you make to yourself, especially when you don't feel like doing it, you're creating the input that eventually produces confidence as the output. That's the piece most people completely overlook. They're so focused on chasing confidence instead of earning it. Think about it this way. Imagine someone says, I really want to get in shape. If all they ever do is think about being fit, wish they looked different, or hope they'll magically become healthier, nothing changes. At some point, they have to walk into the gym, complete the workouts, and consistently eat the right foods. Wishing for the outcome isn't enough. The work is what creates the result. I'll give you an example from my own life. When I was 21 years old, I moved across the country. I didn't have a job. I didn't have much money, and honestly, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I definitely wasn't confident in myself, and I wasn't confident that everything would work out. So instead of waiting until I felt ready, I decided to create a plan. I moved to California, rented a small apartment, and started searching for every job I could possibly find within walking distance. Since my degree was in exercise science, I focused on gyms. Walking distance mattered because I couldn't afford to spend much on gas. Every dollar counted. Eventually, I landed a job at 24 Hour Fitness. Within the first couple of days, I realized something I wasn't expecting. The job wasn't really about fitness at all. Everything I'd studied in college suddenly became secondary because the position was actually centered around marketing and sales. That realization scared me. I remember thinking, I have absolutely no experience with sales. I don't know how to market anything. Imposter syndrome hit me immediately. It honestly felt like I was watching myself from outside my own body, wondering how I had ended up in a situation I wasn't qualified for. At the same time, every day I looked at my bank account, I watched my savings disappear. I had around $5,000 saved, and the balance kept getting smaller. My rent alone was $1,400 every month. Then there was food, gas, insurance, and student loan payments. I remember calculating everything over and over and realizing I only had a few months before I completely ran out of money. I knew I couldn't quit. More importantly, I didn't want to become the kind of person who walked away every time something felt uncomfortable. Deep down, I knew quitting would only make me lose even more confidence in myself. So I made a decision. I was going to learn. I committed to reading 5 different books on sales. I showed up at work at 4 o'clock every morning and often stayed until 9 at night. I practiced constantly. I looked for every opportunity to learn from people who were better than I was. Whenever someone had experience I didn't have, I asked questions and paid attention. My only goal was to build the skill through repetition. The first time I had to make a sale, I was so nervous I honestly thought I was going to throw up. I remember walking into the bathroom just to calm myself down. But even though I was scared, I didn't leave the building. I didn't quit. For the first month, I was terrified almost every single day. Then one day, everything changed. I closed my very first sale. The moment it happened, my manager and the rest of the team gathered around me to celebrate. Everyone was excited. They congratulated me and told me I'd done it. But the most important part wasn't the celebration. It wasn't even the money. The thing that mattered most was how I felt about myself. In that moment, it felt like the future version of me, the person I had always hoped I could become, had suddenly become real. Every limiting belief I had been carrying about myself started breaking apart. Up until that day, I truly didn't believe I could sell. I didn't believe I could make money through marketing or sales. But after that first success, my mind suddenly expanded. I started asking myself different questions. What else am I capable of learning? What other skills could I develop? What other opportunities have I been telling myself are impossible? That single experience completely changed the way I viewed my own potential. Looking back, it's almost funny to think I expected affirmations on my bathroom mirror to make me good at sales. They never could have. What actually changed me was showing up every day, practicing, failing, learning, and putting in the repetitions. That's how confidence is created. Success doesn't discriminate, and neither does confidence. It doesn't care where you came from, what your background looks like, or how much experience you have. The only thing that matters is whether you're willing to put in the work required to earn it. Think about it. When you're younger, you probably look at certain people and wonder, how are they so confident? Maybe they don't have perfect circumstances. Maybe they don't look the way society says they should, or maybe they didn't start with more opportunities than you. What you're seeing isn't magic. You're seeing the result of work that happened long before you noticed them. They've developed skills, faced uncomfortable situations, and built confidence one experience at a time. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you create by repeatedly showing up and proving to yourself that you're capable. Here's another thing that's important to understand. Your brain is constantly collecting evidence. That evidence is what slowly shapes your identity and builds confidence over time. For example, people often tell me, "Layla, I'd love to speak at an event someday, but I'm just not confident enough." My response is always the same. Why would you expect to feel confident doing something you've never done before? That expectation doesn't even make sense. Our brains are designed to predict outcomes based on previous experiences. If you've never stood on a stage before, your brain has no proof that you'll be okay. Instead, it assumes the worst and tries to protect you by making you feel afraid. From your brain's perspective, fear is protection. If you're scared, you'll probably avoid the situation. If you avoid the situation, you stay safe. That's exactly how our brains are wired. They're built for survival, not for success. So